Oh, shoot. Whew. Jeez. People, it's been a long day up here in the hollers of eastern Kentucky. It is definitely a long day. I'm tired. I am tired. I've been helping my brother today, spraying and brushing and rolling on stain on his very rustic wood house. Exterior wood is like a barn style, I guess, kind of thing like that. But anyway, so yeah, I've been helping with that. Been up and down the ladder a lot today, which I need to be doing more of, actually exercising and moving because I've been sitting around too long. Let me pull my little microphone over a little bit closer. Okay. So, hello everyone. This is Cassandra Williamson. I am coming to you from Hardy near Belfry, Kentucky, in Pike County, which is, as I say nearly every day, it's right across the river from Williamson, West Virginia, named in honor of members of my family in the past, not direct ancestors, but cousins of mine from way back when, 1895, when the town was created. Yeah, the family owned that land. The dad, Ben Williamson, and the son, John Williamson, Wallace J. Williamson. They were the people who laid out that city and that town, the county seat for Mingo County. And then the railroad came to town, and that just boomed like crazy through the early 1900s. Anyway, so that's where we are. It's Hatfield-McCoy feud country. There are lots of trails around here. If you're interested in riding ATV trails and going, getting some rustic cabins, going out into the woods and riding all over the place, the Hatfield-McCoy trail system goes into Kentucky and West Virginia, and it is extensive. That's the major industry in this part of the U.S. now, in eastern Kentucky and southern West Virginia. Mining is there, but not like it used to be. There's only one mine within just a mile, 3 miles of where I'm staying here with my brother in eastern Kentucky to help out families. So that's where I am at this point. Anyway, so today is the day before Trump's birthday parade. Now, let me just be very clear up front. They're celebrating the Army's 250th anniversary. It's also the 248th anniversary of the resolution that acknowledged the U.S. Flag Day, which was June 14th, 1777 in the Second Continental Congress. Okay, that's when they wrote a resolution that said, basically, this is our flag and we will stand behind it. And so they have. So 248 years since that resolution in the Second Continental Congress. And also the Army was created 2 years prior to that, but it was the Continental Army rather than 1775. I think it was later in the year, but it was created as the Continental Army. And so there we are. That's where it came from, and they are well deserving of all the respect and honor that we can possibly give to the Army for their 250th anniversary. Absolutely, completely supportive of what the U.S. Army does, its capabilities, its functions, except for kicking out otherwise highly trained and skilled and knowledgeable people simply because the current administration has got its head stuck in a sand pile somewhere. And Hegseth, I think, has got his head stuck somewhere else. It's all brown. Anyway, Hegseth is just, in my opinion, a lowlife. Anyway, so let's talk about this parade tomorrow. One of the big things that I heard, well, one of the things, not necessarily a big one, but one of the things I read today was that leadership in D.C. at the White House are fearful that the parade could turn into a repeat of Tiananmen Square. Do y'all know what Tiananmen Square is? Who is knowledgeable about that? Oh, really? Okay, so Tiananmen Square, 1989, ended on the incident, the pro-democracy stuff that occurred in China, in Beijing, China. That ended in like June the 4th of 1989, Tiananmen Square, and one of the images you'll see is this. Let me see if I can get this particular one up here. Anyway, yeah, this one. This did not come from there, and this is my recommendation. because so many people were kicked out who actually who are highly skilled and trained, and the only reason they were kicked out is because they're trans, which is bullshit, put it bluntly. So anyway, that's one option, and here's the other one. A friend of mine from down in Florida, one of my supporters and longtime supporters, really, even calls after midnight, like, what was that? Nori in the morning or something? Nori at night? No, I'm just kidding. She does not call me that late at night. But so she called me up and she said, we got to come up with some kind of image where we have some tanks and somebody standing in front of the tanks, maybe even someone peeing in front of the tank. And I was able to create some sketches of that using AI, and they were all right. But then she said, how about if we put a ferry out in front, like Tinkerbell or something like that out in front? So this is the image you're looking at right now, is Tinkerbell actually stopping the tanks. All right. And obviously it's on grass and not being on Constitution Avenue, but in DC. And the parade is tomorrow between 6:30 and 7:30. And then there'll be a musical event on the ellipse in front of the White House, and other activities taking place on the mall there between the Air and Space Museum and Constitution Avenue, around the 6th Avenue area, I think it is. So there are a couple of ways we can approach this thing tomorrow. There are lots and lots and lots of protests taking place all across the country. You can attend one in your state, your city, or your community, wherever you might be. There's plenty of things going on. Some of these are called the No Kings protests. So we get that. And why are they using that terminology, by the way? Does anybody know any idea why they would use that terminology? Well, look, all you have to do is every time the president, and he is duly elected president of the United States, and so let me just get that out of the way real fast, well deserving of his position and authority that he has to a certain extent. But just look at the Oval Office. The thing's decked out in gold. Gold everywhere. It's almost reminiscent of some castle somewhere, so that Trump feels like he is living in this world as a king, folks. But it's beyond that. That's his ego. That's his mentality. That's his way of thinking about things. He sees himself in that light. He sees himself as, and he knows he's this, by the way, as an authoritarian, a strongman authoritarian who is running his businesses the way he wants to, and he wants to run the country the same way. So we've got to figure out how we can stop, or at least take the oxygen out of the air for this parade tomorrow without being violent, without throwing bricks and stones and bottles and bricks and all that stuff. Do not do that. If I were in DC and I saw something like that happen, I'd be filming your butt and turning you into the police. Yes, I would. Period. Flat out. Protest? Yes. Go do it. Hold up your signs, whatever you want to do. No Kings is encouraging people to not go to DC, not be there to become the focus of a Fox News activity. That's exactly what you would do. If you went there and you started throwing rocks and stuff, guess what would happen? You would end up on the 5 or on somewhere on Fox, and they would make a big deal out of you. But we need peaceful ways to protest. One of those peaceful ways to protest is actually standing in front of those tanks. If one could get across the anti-climb fencing and the barricades and then get through whatever police presence, uniformed or not, is there, and being able to push your way out in front of the tanks. They will not run over an American out there, I don't think. This administration's goofball crazy. We have already got sheriffs down in Florida who are saying, you start doing anything, we'll kill you. Yeah. Broward County, I mean. Down in Broward County, sheriff said that. Read it today. Friend reminded me of it this afternoon. So yeah, I mean, they are itching to shoot if you do something stupid. And this is what would happen if they did. And they don't seem to have a memory of, or at least any idea of the history of those kinds of things in this country. This is what it would look like. You know what that image is from? How many of you know where that image right there is from? That is at Kent State in Ohio, 1970. 1970. 4 were killed at Kent State in Ohio by the National Guard. The National Guard had fired like 67 rounds into this group of anti-war protesters. They were protesting the Vietnam War and the presence of the military on the Kent State campus. That shooting by the National Guard effectively ended the war for the United States. This country rallied around the students, rallied around those who had been killed, for the most part. There were some blockheads out there who didn't. And we have some of those blockheads today. Yeah, I could name quite a few right off the top of my head. But they would love to see stuff like this. There are some far-right groups out there that want to see this occur. And we don't need to be doing things that will encourage that. But at the same time, we've got these young people in the National Guard who are weekend warriors, essentially. But no, they're highly trained and skilled, and they're knowledgeable, but they don't have riot control training. Or well, maybe they do. Maybe they do. There's a possibility that they do, because in today's environment, riot control would be something they'd have to do in another country, not in the U.S. But anyway, so we don't want to see a repeat of Kent State. We do want to do this. We do want to stand peacefully and block this administration, Trump, from getting his little ego stroked by a military parade in his honor. And yeah, they're going to tell you left and right that this thing is about, the 250th anniversary of the Army, which is true. That's what they're doing. They're celebrating that as well. And it's also about the 248th anniversary of Flag Day and things like that. And I can tell you that there have been threats to parades honoring the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army across the country. Oklahoma City has canceled theirs because some idiot out there is threatening the parade. That's the military from Fort Sill there in Oklahoma City. So there better not be anyone in our community doing stuff like that. If you're threatening a parade that honors our U.S. Army, I hope I can find you before they do. And I hope they can find you. Because I'm going to tell you, I do not support that kind of crap. That parade should go on in Oklahoma City. But the threats are too strong and too valid and too loud. So they've had to cancel that parade in Oklahoma City. That's crazy. That's crazy. Here in the U.S., they're having to cancel a parade honoring the Army. Come on. I don't want the parade in Washington, D.C. canceled either. I'd love to see it rained on and everything else and all of that, but not for the same reasons. See, Trump won't be in Oklahoma City at that parade. That is strictly just the Army celebrating its 250th anniversary. So if you're the one out there doing these kind of things and you're listening to me right now, if I find you, there'll be hell to pay. If I find out who's doing those kind of things, threatening violence against a parade in Oklahoma, oh my God, it just pisses me off. Bad. You don't need to protest there. The one that is actually worthy of protest is in D.C. because this is designed in D.C. to stroke Trump's ego. And earlier I said something about no Kings parade, no Kings protest taking place in 2,000 plus cities around the country and communities around the country. The reason he's seen as a king is because, one, golden toilet, golden escalator, golden tower, golden shower, Yeah, I'm throwing that in there too because whatever. And then we also have the golden office, the gilded office, the Oval Office is all decked out in gold and finery and all that kind of crap. That's not who we are, folks. And then to top it all off, the Qatari government, the royal family, is giving him a plane that they used. You know why? Because Trump says, you know, I'm entitled to that. It's coming from the royal family. No wonder we see him as someone who is thinking of himself as a king. He'll tell you no. He'll tell you all this kind of stuff, but we know how he thinks. It's completely amoral. We know that that's the way he operates. We know everything he says. You have to look at from 100 different angles because it could be good for one, bad for another. Flip it around, it's bad for that one and good for this one. It doesn't matter to him. His goal is he feels entitled to run this country the way he has run his businesses, including the university. So that's where we are today. And that's why this organization called No Kings is out here holding these protests, or at least coordinating these protests around the country. No problem with that. No problem with that whatsoever. Because I know that he is a strongman type authoritarian leader. He is a business leader. He created a lot of these businesses himself. I mean, that's who he is, right? That's exactly who he is. So we know who he is. I've been in business for myself before, many times, actually. Multiple industries over all the years. Multiple industries, from construction and temporary services businesses and real estate appraisal businesses and retail store, newspaper and restaurants and construction, and you name it. I've been involved in a lot of different things, and I created these things, and then you run them because, and there are times when you have to go out and go, that we're not doing, or that we are doing, or that you cannot do here. We will not allow that here. Go and leave. You have to be an authoritarian at times, but you also have to respect your people, and rather than getting into leadership and all that kind of stuff. Business leaders who create, not necessarily the ones who are running mega corporations and stuff like that, who have been around a long time. No, those are a little bit different. They have morphed into something else. But a self-made person running their businesses is essentially an authoritarian. They have to be a strong leader. They got to be a strong boss to accomplish the task. And Trump is that, period. He is that. Half of the country wants that, running our government. But see, our government anyway, is a constitutional republic. It's not a business. It was never a business. It was never set up that way at all. Hamilton, and with all of his input into it, and Madison and all these other people into this thing who had helped create that document that's our Constitution, and then approve the amendments to it afterwards. It was never a business. It needed to make some money. It needed to bring revenue in. There's no doubt of that. I mean, Hamilton was a big promoter of bringing industry into the country. Jefferson hated it at first until he became president. But Hamilton wanted to bring in industry, wanted to bring in people from all over the country, all over the world, especially those who'd been disenfranchised in their countries, in their communities before, because he knew that they would come in here and be very thankful, unlike many today, by the way, very thankful for the opportunity to live a new life here, create a new life for themselves. And Hamilton also knew that tariffs were important for a fledgling new nation, trying to secure its place in the world, trying to improve its manufacturing base and industry. Tariffs were hugely important then.
So it's gotten out of hand now, no, though, because we were trying to help the world out after World War II, but now the playing field is just not right there anymore. It needs to be adjusted, which Trump is doing. But the thing that Trump is also well into is his ego. Governments around this world and leaders around the world know that if they want to get something from Trump, all you got to do is give him a golden jet or a golden shower or a golden toilet or whatever, make him feel like a king. So we protest this. It would be great if that could be pulled off tomorrow. But you have to be aware of the dangers and the challenges of doing that. The thing with this is that there are going to be anti-climb fencing all over the place, protecting the parade route. It's going to look like, one of those cattle chutes out here where the cows are all rounded up and they're shuttled into this little narrow passageway before they get loaded onto the truck or into getting their shots or whatever you have to do. Turn them into steers. That's no fun. Let me tell you that. That's no fun. But yeah, that's what this parade is going to be. It's inside this protected area. You're going to have uniformed police and police in no uniform, without their uniforms on, blending into the crowd. You're going to have Secret Service all over the place, and you're going to have supporters of Donald Trump there defending everything he's doing, supporting him in every way. And so it's going to be a difficult challenge to pull off something like that right there in that image you're looking at now. It would be difficult to pull it off. It's not impossible, but it has some serious dangers associated with it. One, they could shoot you. That's pretty serious. They could definitely shoot you, wrestle you to the ground, throw you down, handcuff you, and haul you off before you even made it out there to stop the first tank. But the person who does, they will suck the oxygen out of the air around this whole facade of a parade, which honors Trump, okay? His birthday. Because he's got that kind of ego, folks. He's wanted this parade since his first term. Come on. So, having said all of that stuff, again, I want to reiterate what I said earlier. I, too, honor the Army's 250th anniversary. They have been the best in the world for a long time. I mean, they actually beat the British, right? And the Spanish. And Germany. Well, helped with a lot of other people around the world. But they've overcome all of these challenges and won, even though the person with that little trans flag right there, even though there were people like that serving all along the way. You don't believe it? Why don't you go look up Kazimierz Pulaski? Whoever knows, do you know who he is? He was the person who created and founded basically the U.S. Cavalry and the Army. He was came over here and offered his assistance to General Washington. And in return, he would turn the Army into a professional unit with the cavalry, and he did it. But we now know that he was at the very least intersex because his bones are female. Aha. That comes as a shock to most people, but we do know that he was baptized as a man. They all saw externally that he looked like a man, had all those traits as a man, but internally, all of the bone structure was female. What do you think about that? And then you had Albert Cashier from the Civil War, Union Army, served in many, many campaigns, battles, was captured by the Confederacy, escaped from the Confederacy, continued to serve honorably in the Union Army, lived as a man a year before, at least a year before the war started, and all the way up until like 1910, when he was wounded in an accident. And then when the doctors looked at him, they said, "You are not a man, you're a woman." And he said, "No, I'm not. I'm a man. I always have been." And then they said, "Well, we're putting you in an institution right now, putting you in a dress, because we can't have that." And Albert was also receiving a pension from the federal government for his service in the Union Army. It was stopped after that. But here's the thing, all of his buddies that he had served with, who he had served with in the war, in the Civil War, came to his defense and argued in his defense and got his pension reinstated. They made sure Albert Cashier was buried with honor when he died as one of their fellow soldiers, because that's who he was. So for someone to say that, I read this somewhere other, that we got the gender confusion out of the Army, out of the military now. There is no confusion in our gender. You're the only one who has got a problem with who we are. We don't. We know who we are. And we sure as crap, and I know me personally, I don't want to go back through anything that I went through to get here. And as a veteran, if I could do it, I would be standing out there with the flags of the service branches I served in, the Navy and the Marine Corps. Graduated from the Naval Academy, I would be standing right there in front of that if I could, as a veteran. And to me, it is an abomination that we are having a large military parade in DC simply to stroke the ego of a president who sees himself as a king. And yeah, he does. And you can't say otherwise. To say otherwise, you're ignoring the facts, ignoring what we see with our eyes. We know these things to be true. He came down the golden escalator after all, right? Had the golden toilet in his tower. Everything in the tower was gold and glittery. The Oval Office is now gold and glittery. The jet that the Qataris are giving him, well, it's a royal jet for the royal family. Of course he'll take it because it plays to his ego. So yes, we do see him as a king. That's what he wants. And that's how he sees himself, as a strong man type of leader. It's a little bit different. There's some shades of gray and all that. But tomorrow I will be going live. It's Saturday. I'll try to go live at 6. The parade starts at 6:30. I'm going to go live again from the holler near Eastern Kentucky because I do have responsibilities with taking care of my family here and being their caregiver. And that's what I'm doing. I'm at that place, where I can do that. So I'm here for them. There's 3 of them, plus my cousin, 4. And so I kind of make sure everybody's all right. And make sure that here in the house, in my brother's home, I make sure that they all get their medicines and their shots and get them to the doctor and go grocery shopping, clean up the laundry, do the dishes, stuff like that. And my younger sister is exactly 10 years younger than me. She is disabled and hard to communicate with. And it takes a lot of interpretation sometimes. And she can't walk without support. She uses a wheelchair now. So I take care of her, but she comes in and helps with the dishes. Basically what she does is she goes in and organizes them. She organizes the dishes for me, okay? Rinses them off and organizes them, small, medium, large, in a stack in the sink so that I can go in and wash them, which is great. I mean, that's perfectly fine. She does a really good job of sweeping the floor and vacuuming up everything and all that. I mean, she's on top of all of that. Sometimes she reminds me of things I need to be doing. So I will be coming back tomorrow, though, live Saturday in a special event, special program about honoring the U.S. Army and standing in opposition to this abomination of a parade for President Trump's birthday. But I'm also going to be doing one other thing. Those of you who know me, you also know that the school that I went to and Army, the West Point, we had some pretty strong rivalries, very strong rivalries. Tomorrow, I'll say something that you don't hear from Academy grads, Naval Academy grads. Not often, unless they married into the West Point bunch. And I've got a lot of friends who did. That's a divided house for sure. It's like, you got the license plate on the front of your car. You got one that says West Point and one that says Naval Academy. Well, down in Alabama, that same thing is like, Auburn and Alabama. UA, University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and Auburn. And I've seen lots of license plates in Alabama where that house is absolutely divided. And come Iron Bowl day, ooh, goodness, I can't even imagine being in that house. But it'd be in the same thing, though, like some of my classmates who are married into Army and graduates of West Point. So I don't know if they can handle that kind of dichotomy right there. That takes strong people. Because when Army-Navy game occurs, I'm going to be out there going, go Navy, go Navy. But then I'm also a supporter of the Army, obviously. It's all part of the U.S., right? Well, with that, I'll see you tomorrow at 6 for a special event.